Welcome back to another help video. Today's video is going to focus on Unit 2, Lesson 2 for Geometry A. This lesson is on transformations number 2. Now, the last lesson kind of introduced the transformations you are going to see. Today, we'll learn how to classify a transformation given an ordered pair rule. Now remember, these are the 4 transformations you'll see. Translations do not change the shape. They do not change size. They do not turn, flip, anything like that. They simply slide, right, from one spot to the other. Reflections do not change shape, do not change size. They reflect or flip over a line of reflection. Rotation, same thing, do not change shape or size, but they do rotate around a point of rotation. And last but not least, dilations. These are the only ones that do change size, right? You can enlarge a shape or reduce a shape from your pre-image to your image, but you aren't going to be flipping, turning, simply just changing the size. All right, so in order to be successful today, we do need to quickly review how to plot points and to pull coordinates from given points. So taking a look here, remember we always start at the origin, which is our 0, 0, okay, our center point, where our x-axis and our y-axis intersect. Now, we are going to be looking to identify the coordinates of V, okay, and V is right there. Remember, this one, or our first coordinate, is our x-coordinate, and that shows us which direction we go, either left or right. Our second one is up or down. Taking a look here, we go 3 to the left, so -3 in the x direction, and +1 in the y direction. So V is -3, 1. U, same thing, we go -2 in the x direction, +2 in the y direction. T, we go +2 in the x direction, +2 in the y. And last but not least, S, we go +2 in the x direction, -2 in the y. So when you guys are trying to figure out points, make sure that we are not flipping your first coordinate or your x coordinate and your y coordinate. It is always written x first, y second. So likewise, we're going to be given points that we need to plot. Remember that first number tells us which direction to go, left or right. Since it's negative, we're going to go left 7 and then down 2. So I go over 7 and then down 2, 1, 2. That is my point A. Point B, we go to the right 4 and up 3 because it's positive. So that's B. C, we go to the left 4, but up 4. Left because it's negative, up because it's positive. There's C. Now be very careful. If it's 0, that means you do not move in that direction. So for point D, we do not move left or right because it's 0, but we do go down -2. E, we do move to the right 9, but then from there we don't move up or down. So that point is on your x-axis. So D is on your y-axis, E is on your x-axis. Now that we remember how to plot points, let's get after it in terms of transformation. So today you are going to be given pre-images. Okay, so a pre-image is a beginning image. And what you're going to do is you're going to use that image to create a new image. Now, the directions say, write the coordinates of the vertices after a reflection over the y-axis. So I'm going to highlight y-axis. Your y-axis is this vertical axis right here. So this is where it needs to go. Now, if you have graph paper, definitely encourage you to use that. Feel free to just count the number of units from your line of reflection. And so let's go ahead and label that our line of reflection and go from there. So T, which is in our pre-image, we need to find T prime. And so this little tick mark prime, or means prime, and that just simply means it's the new point or new image. Okay, so T is 4 away from our line of reflection. So it's going to be 4 away over that line. So I'm going to go ahead and erase so you can see that. I'm going to label that T prime, and then I'm going to go ahead and write the coordinates. So the coordinates of that is 4, +1. So now let's go ahead and keep doing this for each of our points. So S is 9 away from our line of reflection. And how I know that is I look at where S is located. That's at -9. So that means it's going to be located at +9 on the other side here. That is our S prime. And that point is +9, 1. So to recap, our T started as -4, 1, and then changed to +4, 1. Our S started as -9, 1, and then changed to +9, 1. Are you guys seeing the pattern here? What is changing? Yeah, the X is changing from a negative to a positive. And so for this particular problem, when you reflect over the x-axis, whatever your coordinate is, you're simply going to make the x-coordinate the opposite or negative. So let's see if that works. So U is -4, -4. So I'm going to change this -4 to a +4 and see if when we plot that, it looks like a reflection, which it does. So that's our new U prime. And last but not least, R is -9, -4. So I'm going to just change that first one to a positive and then plot that. So we just reflected this image over this line of reflection to get this image. And these are our new coordinates. So these rules are super awesome to remember. I also put these rules in your study guide for Unit 2. If you print that out or just have it up as you're testing, that is super helpful for you. But for reflections, if you reflect across the x-axis, you change your y-coordinate to the opposite sign. If you reflect across the y-axis, you're going to change your x-coordinate to the opposite sign. And if you reflect across the line y equals x, so just to understand what that is, that would be if you had a coordinate plane and that line is right here. So that's y is equal to x. You would simply flip the coordinates. So your x becomes your y becomes your x. The next transformation I wanted to talk about is translation. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about how to translate. So we are given a preimage, and that preimage is triangle QRS. And this problem specifically states that Madison wrote the following transformation rule to translate this or slide it across the coordinate grid. Now, I want us to take a look at that rule here. So what it's telling you is for every point that's on your triangle, you are going to subtract 1 from the x and add 3 to the y. So in other words, when you subtract 1 to the x, you go to the left one. When you add 3 to the y, you're actually moving up 3. So for these points, we're going to do, so let's go ahead and start with S. We're going to move 1 to the left and then 3 up. So now that becomes our new image, or S prime. And we're going to do that for each of our points. So we're going to move Q over to the left one, up 3, and R over 1, up 3. So now to erase all of my scribbles everywhere, you can see that each of our points moved over to the left one, up 3, and it didn't change the size or the shape of that image. So therefore, we just translated using this rule. Now, just like our reflections, translations do have mapping rules as well. I know these mapping rules kind of look complicated, so I'm going to try to simplify them for you. If you take a look here, this little sign means the plus or minus symbol. So what it's saying is if you're moving to the left, you would have a minus symbol. If you were moving to the right, you would have a plus symbol. Okay, and very similar to your y value, right? If you were moving up, you would have a plus symbol in that spot. If you were moving down, you would have a negative. Okay, so that is why you have that plus or minus symbol. I know it kind of looks a little intimidating, but it's just saying you're either moving left or right, depending on what symbol's there, and up and down, depending on what symbol's there. All right, the very last example I want to go through with you today is on rotations, okay? And I already put down the mapping rules for rotations down here. The rule varies depending on the degree of which you rotate, okay? And once again, these rules are pasted into your study guide that you can use on your unit test. Definitely encourage you to print that out or at least have it available when you are taking your unit test. But if you are looking to rotate a figure 180 degrees, right? So 180 degrees is one flat line there. You're going to take every point or ordered pair on that image, and you're going to make it the opposite sign. So for example, let's say you had like -4, -3. You would make it opposite to +4, +3. Now for the next rule, this rule is for you to rotate a figure 90 degrees, but counterclockwise. So remember, counterclockwise is the opposite of a clock, right? So you're kind of turning to the left there. But your mapping rule is for every point that's given. So let's say 3, -7 is a point on your image that's given. You're going to flip them and change the sign of your Y value. So I'm going to flip it so that it becomes Y and X, so -7 and 3. And then it says take the opposite of Y. So instead of it being a negative, it then becomes a positive. And then finally, last but not least, if we were to rotate a figure 90 degrees clockwise, right? So that is going the normal direction of a clock to the right. You would take the given point, flip it, and then make the X value the opposite sign. So I'm going to go ahead and use this same point here. So let's say our given point is 3, -7. You're going to flip it so that it's -7, 3, right? And then you need to make your X term the opposite sign. So it goes from a +3 to a -3. So that's an example of the clockwise rotation. So now, given this example, let's go ahead and practice rotating. All right, so let's say I want to rotate this figure around the origin. So remember that right there is the origin. I'm going to go ahead and mark the origin. That's our point of rotation. We're going to mark it to rotate 180 degrees. So our rule is each point we're going to make a -X, -Y. Okay, so let's start with U. So U is 3, 7. Okay, all we're going to do is change the sign. So our new U, our U prime, is going to become -3, -7. So -3, -7, plot that point. There we go. T is 3, 6. So that means our new T, we change the signs or make them opposite, become -3, -6. So that's our T. And then last but not least, V, we have 10, 5. And then in order to rotate it 180 degrees, we change the sign. So it becomes -10, -5. Boom, boom. Done. So now let's go ahead and rotate it 90 degrees counterclockwise. So taking a look here, our rule is we're going to flip them. Okay, so we're going to flip our X and Y value and then change the sign of the Y. So go in here, I'm going to change to blue here. This is my X value, this is my Y value. So to rotate it counterclockwise 90 degrees, we're going to flip the 7 and the 3 and then change the sign of our 7. So we get negative 7 up 3. So for t, same thing. We flip the numbers, change the sign of the first one, so we get negative 6, 3. And v, flip it, make the first one negative. So we go negative 5, 10. And done. All right, last but not least, let's rotate it clockwise. Okay, so we're going that way here. To do that, once again, we're flipping our numbers. So our x becomes our y becomes our x. So for u, 3, 7 becomes 7, 3. And we're going to change the sign of that second number. So we're going to move 7, positive 7 in the x, negative 3 in the y. So that's our new point. And we're going to do the same thing. So flip it, make the second one negative. Flip it, make the second one negative. Done. Now, keep in mind, if you have any questions at all, please make sure you schedule one-on-one time with me, especially when you're working on your practice problems. That is the best time for me to help you. Make sure you print out that study guide for your unit test. Otherwise, best of luck and crush it.